Okay, everyone, we're going to get started. Today, I am happy to be here, and we're going to be learning as we get prepared for what learning will look like in September, and I'm sure all of us will be doing some type of remote learning, ways to leverage your school library. And I am excited to introduce our two presenters today. First, we have Christina Cucci, who has been an educator in New Jersey for over 20 years. She currently serves as the Certified School Library Media Specialist at Reynolds School, a pre-K to second grade in Upper Saddle River in Bergen County. Christina has also worked as a classroom teacher, basic skills teacher, enrichment specialist, and special education teacher. Christina is a past president of the New Jersey Association of School Librarians and works diligently to advocate for school library positions in every school in New Jersey. Christina has earned the Emerging Leader Award and the Vili Gandhi Training Scholarship Award among many other grants for her school. Christina lives in Morristown, where she enjoys gardening and spending time with her husband and feisty bulldog. And then our second presenter is Dziedzic-Elliott, who is a media center specialist librarian at Lawrence High School in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. Eva holds a master's degree in Polish from University and master's in library and information science from Rutgers University. Eva is a second-generation librarian who considers the school library world to be a perfect balance between her love of libraries and education. She believes that education professionals should always continue on their self-learning path by being active in their communities. If she is not busy taking classes, working on a new initiative and program, she takes time to explore vegetarian cooking and traveling with her family. So it is my honor now to turn it over to Christina and Eva. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rose. That was a great introduction. Thank you to all the participants that are here. We're really excited to talk with you a little bit today. And what we're going to be focusing on with you is thinking about the reopening of your school and what format that reopening will look like. And no matter what it will be, we want to show you how your school library, and hopefully you have a school library, and how that person in your school library can really be a leader in the reopening to help your community, help your students and serve their needs. We're going to just go over a little bit more of an introduction. I want to tell you a little bit more, and as we introduce ourselves a little more, I'd like to focus on what has been a struggle for you, for your family, for your child, specifically related to the library as you've been in this distance learning experience. So if you have a moment, hop on over to the chat. You can go ahead and open that chat box and just let us know what has been a struggle for you related to using the library services for your community. As Rose mentioned, I am the school librarian at Reynolds School. My school is up in Upper Saddle River, all the way up in the northern part of the state in Bergen County. And my school is a pre-K through second grade school. And I would say that my expertise really are in the youngest learners. I've always worked with younger elementary students. And I think that a lot of the work that I do focuses on those new readers, new children coming to school for the first time, and what their needs look like. For me, my greatest struggle in all of this remote learning that's been happening has been really keeping that connection with my students, with my colleagues, the teachers that I collaborate with the administrators that I work with in the building. I was so used to coming together every week. I would see about 400 students in my classes, and I felt really lost not seeing them in the distance learning experience. And we eventually did start to have some Zoom lessons, but for a few weeks before that, I really missed that connection. Eva, do you want to tell us about your greatest struggle?
Absolutely. So as you know, I'm a high school librarian, and my biggest challenge is the fact that I usually don't have a schedule that the students would come to me on a regular basis. There are a few teachers who do come on a regular basis, but that's very unusual. So for me, the biggest struggle was the lack of contact with my students. Usually my students would come during their lunches or during study halls, so I would have a regular group that would come and visit me daily. So that lack of daily constant connection what was the biggest challenge for me. Also, whenever I would learn that one of my teachers is working on some kind of a project, I would just go to their classroom and offer my help. And all of a sudden that was taken away from me. At the same time, I have developed close enough relationships with my teachers that we would still stay in touch online. So I would still receive those requests from the teachers, from the students, and we would still be in touch. It's just in a different format, definitely more challenging format.
Great. Eva, I'm not able to see the chat box on my computer. I don't know if anyone's responded, if there are any struggles you'd like to share.
I'm seeing only all panelists. Let me see.
Yeah, no, nothing yet. I just asked people to share some of the struggles they've gone through at their school or school library as they tackled remote learning.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Okay. So we just don't have any responses at this point.
Okay. Well, feel free to use that chat feature and we can take a look at those later.
So I wanted to start at this point by explaining maybe and asking you also, and again, we would ask you to go back to the chat box and think about for a second, what is that stereotype of a school librarian? What is that you think that we do? So if you guys can go on the chat and just answer that question, what do you think that school librarians do? So give us a couple of answers. We're going to wait for a second or two. What do school librarians do? Besides being cute like the girl that's on the picture, right?
I'm sorry, somebody's at my front door. I think it's a package.
Okay, so let's just see. Will we have any takers for the chat response? What do school librarians do? Organize all the books in the library, definitely. What else? We help students get materials they need for schoolwork. Yes. Help our children stay on level with their reading, share a lesson with students, teach kids with how to research, reading ambassadors for children. We encourage kids to want to read. Absolutely. And all of these answers are correct. But we are here today to show you that there is so much more that we do in our buildings and so much more that we do to support our students and our teachers, administrators. And as you see on the screen, first of all, I just want to let you guys know that when it comes to being a school librarian, I don't want to brag, but I kind of do, but very often we are some of the most educated people in the building. I have worked in environments that besides the principal, I was the only person in the building holding master's degree in education. And that happens often because in order to be a school librarian, we have to be holding teaching certifications appropriate for the grade level where we work, and also library certifications. So Christina and I, we both have both of these certifications. We are teachers who also have master's degree on top of our regular teaching certifications. And let me tell you about a little bit that I do besides all of those great answers that you guys already gave us. So I usually start September by organizing workshops, lessons, and by inviting my students and teachers to the library to talk about censorship and banned books week. And we go in depth into what does it mean that the books get banned, what does it mean that books get challenged, and what does it mean that the books get censored. And it's not only books, it's just information altogether. So it sometimes happens that in some, not only school districts, but public libraries as well, certain books feel uncomfortable to the local stakeholders. It could be Board of Education, or it could be just local community. So as an example, a couple of years ago, one of the famous books that was not necessarily challenged or banned, but questioned in some communities was The Hate You Give. So what do we as librarians do when we are aware that there is a book that is published and highly popular? Of course, we read that book first. There is no book that gets on our shelves without us being able to justify if that challenged book, if that book that is being questioned in certain communities, does it have a place in our library collection? And then we as librarians always have to be aware about our own biases. If I know that I believe in statement A, doesn't mean that statement B doesn't have place in my library. That's just my personal belief. But you know what? My patrons have right to information, education, and knowledge. And I have to check off my bias at the front door of my library and provide access to information altogether. We also are very often considered tech specialists in a building. And very often we do carry those dual certifications or additional information, additional knowledge based on technology. So during our remote learning in a spring, very often our librarians became those instructors who were supporting teachers and supporting students, how to get on Zoom call, how to go on Google Meet, how to record and stream a video, how to do annotations online without using paper, how to grade papers, and so forth and so forth. So we are also very often tech specialists in buildings. When it comes to my particular job description, and this is something that probably carries the most weight in high school library environment, is access to information and evaluation of the information. What does it mean? That means that I am teaching my students and I am teaching my not only teachers, but also sometimes administrators. I provide workshops and professional development opportunities for all of them to show them how can I access quality level information? How do I later on learn if that information is real and correct and biased, and if biased, in what way? And this is one of the biggest parts of our job. And just to let you know, and I will be talking about it a little bit later, this has been becoming a big part of library world, not only on the K-12 level, but college level as well. When it comes to information and media literacy, this is becoming a big part of our world. Access and evaluation of truthfulness of that information. And some of you were mentioning in a chat that we take care of the books in the library. And I want to give you an example. When it comes to the library, there is a reason why we call it collection. There is a collection development program. There is a collection development process that we have to go through. When I am curating my high school level library, not only my books and all of the information resources have to be appropriate for my grade level and for my students, but they also have to be specific to the needs of my teachers and students. If my teachers are teaching a particular subject or unit, they need to be able to access that information in my library. I'm not going to be providing them information from middle school level or elementary school level because they don't need that. I need to know what they teach. I need to know their curriculum. Very often during the summer, we get together and discuss their curriculum. We need to go through their program, and we need to pair up our library resources with the needs of the teachers. And I mentioned already the appropriateness of the grade level. Okay, Christina?
Thank you. Okay, so we want to just talk a little bit about what school libraries look like from preschool all the way up to high school, so that you can kind of see the variety and how different libraries serve students in different ways. So for me, on the elementary level, I work in a K-2 building. Some of the things that I teach students are really learning how to read, because they're all becoming brand new readers. And then once they've developed the skills to learn how to read in first grade, second grade, then what they do is they learn how to read to learn, how to use those reading skills to become learners and lifelong learners and lovers of knowledge. We talk about favorite authors, favorite genres, favorite characters, anything to really immerse children in learning to read and loving to read. We also start beginning research. Students as young as kindergarten and first grade love knowledge, they love information, and they learn how to conduct research on nonfiction textbooks or databases. And I think that's really important. A lot of the work that I do goes along with the curriculum. I partner up with a lot of the classroom teachers and I support their curriculum. So it's really important that the school librarian is someone that can network with lots of different people in the school community because they can support that learning for the children. So in first grade, we do a big report on animals. In second grade, we do a biography unit. The second graders in social studies learn all about biographies and famous people. We call them change makers. And we do one big unit on Hispanic American change makers in our second grade program. All of my students, everyone learns all about digital citizenship. And this is really important. And I know this is something that we're hearing from a lot of parents from the PTA, wondering how are my children learning how to be safe, especially if we're going to be in an all virtual environment. How can you protect my children so that way they can be safe when using this technology? That comes under my curriculum in the library because I also teach technology in my work. A lot of media and library go hand in hand. So I find that I spend a lot of time on digital citizenship. Some of the lessons that I work on involve learning all about this virtual environment and learning how it's a community online. They learn how to navigate safely in an online community, how to be respectful, especially when using tools like messaging or sending emails, sharing photos, and learning about different social media platforms. Children learn about something called their digital footprint, which is something that helps to protect them if they know how to protect their digital footprint. So for me, that's kind of like just an overview of what my elementary curriculum looks like. And thanks for the friends that are putting a few things in the chat. We're going to talk about some of these things that you're posting about when we get to the end. So please use that chat feature. Eva's going to tell you a little bit about middle school and high school libraries.
So what we want to keep informing everybody about is the fact that what Christina starts in pre-K environment, it doesn't drop. It's like learning reading or math. We introduce some level of a skill or some kind of a tool, and then we keep reinforcing it and continuing in middle and high school. So what Christina was talking about, digital citizenship, research skills, this is something that we will not drop past elementary school level. We're going to reinforce that in middle school, and we're going to continue that in high school. The research skills will be changing. We will be looking deeper into book, how to use the nonfiction book, how to access the online library catalog. And we will go deeper also in subscription pay databases. So we are just keep adding and adding new skills and new levels. Safe space is becoming more prominent in middle school and high school. Those students are becoming their own people, their own individuals, and they're starting to realize that, you know, it's great to be with my friends, but sometimes I need to take a break. Sometimes I need to have a moment to myself so I can continue throughout with my day. So we will find that in middle school and high school where students will withdraw from overcrowded cafeteria and hide in the library, and library becomes that safe space. And I do have students who come to my library every single day because the cafeteria that holds maybe 600 people at the time is a little bit too much for them. There are some anxieties and discomfort that come with that. A lot of students who come to me are minorities, are students who just recently came to this country, and their English, maybe they feel that their English is not strong enough to keep up with their friends in the cafeteria, and they simply just need to take a break from English and maybe chat with students who speak the same language. So there's a lot of reasons why students will withdraw from those overcrowded areas and pull themselves into the library. And most of the libraries, the way we set them up, we will have a common space where larger groups will be able to work. But then we also will set up a quiet room that children or students, youth, they just want to have that moment to themselves. Maker spaces and some kind of the usage of hands. Let's just put it that as simple as that. Is also becoming a big part of our libraries. Sometimes these kids just want to take a break, and sometimes that library also is becoming that space. I know that a lot of wonderful libraries are holding Lego challenges. I just recently received a grant to put a Lego wall in my high school, And you would say Lego wall in a high school? Yes, Lego wall in a high school. My kids love still playing. I still have Kiva planks in my library. I still have coloring books in my library because they just need to take a break. Also, middle school, high school, sometimes libraries and librarians take different opportunities to introduce students to the community outside of their building. So I know that my middle school, Lawrence Middle School, they do phenomenal work when it comes to Martin Luther Day King service. So they invite the community and they do all kinds of like service projects that day. The picture that I have here for high school, it's actually an image that comes from one of my groups of students visiting TCNJ. So why am I taking my kids to TCNJ, librarian to TCNJ? Well, this is very interesting. A few years ago, we came up with this idea that in order to show our students how important research skills are, we decided to bring them to college level libraries, and we partner up with Ryder and TCNJ, and I have partners in crime in both of these communities and colleges. And a couple of times a year, usually the beginning of the school year and the end of the school year, when we are in a building, we do load a couple of buses full of students and go to libraries in college, in those colleges. We usually start some kind of a research project at the high school, and then continue that same research project at the high school, at the college. And believe me, that those students are very excited about being in those colleges, and it's still Lawrence, it's still our Mercer County, it's still our local grants, but yet we have had situations that these were the first visits of many of our students to the college grants. So this library research skill intro has become their first introduction to college. And we have had situations when all of a sudden the research skill idea became a college tour, and students were asking our librarians, oh, do you have a degree in music? Do you have a degree in psychology? So we as librarians, we play a lot of different roles.
Thank you so much. Real quick, before we talk about the still serving, I just want to address a couple of the things that I see in the chat. First of all, I was really impressed with so many of your responses about what you think a librarian does, because it seems like you really truly understand the nature of it. And if you just stick with us for just another moment, we're going to talk about how all of this ties together to the virtual learning. We are coming around to that. I can't wait to talk towards the end when we get to the questions and answers. I know Eva and I will give you some suggestions about some of the pre-K ideas and about how you can help the kids if they're really looking for that paper book experience. So we're going to get to those. Please feel free to document everything right in the chat, and we'll cover it when we get to the end for the Q&A. Okay, thank you.
This kind of ties to that question of when it comes to remote learning. So towards the end of the school year, the librarians, the school librarians, we realized that there is a need for us to come up with some kind of plan, idea, how we can support each other, support our students, support teachers in that virtual learning environment. So we created a group of librarians, created this hashtag, New Jersey Libs Librarians Still Serving. So you can go on that hashtag, you can go online and you can see what's under that hashtag. And what we meant to do in that social media campaign is to show how and what we do in our remote learning. So librarians were able to post their ideas and their concepts, their programs that they're still running even though we are on remote learning. We were able to support each other. You have to remember that, for example, my school district, it's very unusual, and we are very fortunate because Lawrence School District is one of very few in a whole state that we not only have a certified librarian in every building, but we have also assistants as well. There are some school districts when there is only a couple of people per district. Sometimes there is only one librarian per district who has to run multiple different programs or on different grade levels. So it has additional challenges. So this hashtag NJ Libs Still Serving was our way to support each other and show the larger community that we are still working and still serving our students. When we come back to our presentation, there is one more point, one bullet point, and here I wanted to show you how my colleagues from Lawrence School District, this is specifically Ben Franklin Elementary School, this is how my colleague was supporting her elementary school students throughout the remote learning. So our elementary school librarians work together. There is 4 of them, and each and every one put together a website with all kinds of different ideas, links, presentations, challenges, and they were present and they were visible, and they would create weekly programs just the way they would have it in a building. They create weekly programs to challenge their young readers. The world of the library is completely different in middle school and high school, where we do not have regular hours. So instead of just creating a website with weekly information, we were just mostly working with individual teachers and individual students and supporting them through other resources. And I also have here a picture of a couple of different colleagues from Dziedzic and showing off how and what they do. And you also have the logo from Dziedzic and American Association of School Librarians as well.
Fantastic. So I hope it's starting to come together that I think we're all in agreement that school libraries are really important. Having a librarian there is important. And even if we are in a distance learning model, we want to make sure that those services continue because they are critical for the students. So I just want to go over 3 things that I would call it to be best practices, whether your school goes back hybrid or virtual. I think you want to look for these 3 main things happening in your school library program because these are the best ways to serve students. The first one is you want to have collaboration, and collaboration is one of the main things that librarians do. We find ourselves to be networkers, and we're constantly trying to find out who we can partner up with. Like the NJPTA, Rose and Kathy and I, we got together a couple of years ago, and we wanted to talk about how we can be partners in helping parents understand why libraries are important. So I know I'm always looking to collaborate. Librarians, we collaborate with teachers. We try to curate these high quality book lists or digital resources. We want to use those lists and resources to meet diverse needs of students. We provide tutorials for staff and students. I know that I'm getting ready to put together a how-to sheet for my students to use the new Chromebooks that they'll be getting. So we are collaborating all of the time to help the entire community, whether it's staff or students or parents. Another thing that's going to be really important is circulation. And we want to make sure that the library resources, the physical library resources, most of those are the books, that they can continue to circulate. Even if the school library doors are not open for students to come in and out of, those resources should be in circulation for your children. And that's really important. And we're seeing a lot of the public libraries do this really successfully with a contactless delivery system. So my recommendation is, even if you're doing remote learning, you want to make sure that the catalog is available so that the children can get onto the catalog. They can search for books that they're looking for. They can place a hold or request a book some way, and then the librarian can circulate those books out, whether it's a pickup or a drop-off or some sort of contactless delivery so that it's really safe. And I'm going to talk about the health and safety in just a moment. We do have some guidelines that we are able to follow with recommendations of how this can be done so that the books that are returned can safely be quarantined, cleaned, and returned back to students in circulation. The third area where we want to make sure that kids are getting valuable information from their librarian is through the curation of resources. And what I mean by that is helping to simplify information. So if you think back to when all of this started back in March, I don't know about you, but I was inundated with information. I was getting emails blasted to me from so many different companies about how they can help support me during COVID, during distance learning. And it was overwhelming. What librarians do is we are almost like that funnel where we can take that information, we can funnel out what things we need for our community, because we know our community so well and we know what their needs are, and we can curate that in a really easy, digestible way. So we sort lists. I know that we've made lists of publishers. This is an example of the publishers that are allowing their books to be read aloud during remote learning. We're finding diverse book lists for 2020, the best digital resources, best virtual field trips, even COVID resources. We're able to filter those and make them really accessible to our community. The last thing I wanted to share that I know that's happening in our district is we're really trying to learn from what happened back in the spring. In the spring, when we went to remote learning, it was like an instant. We had to quickly pivot, and we didn't have all of the supports that we really needed in place, but I think we did our best and we really did a good job to serve the students, but it really had to happen very quickly, at least in my district. So something that we're looking at now is we're trying to learn from some of the struggles that we had back in the fall. And I know in my district, our plan for this fall in our hybrid model, I'm returning to a hybrid kind of experience, is we'll be more responsive. We also have a more structured schedule so that I know that I'll be seeing certain students on certain days so that I can schedule my work with them. And the last thing is there's more accountability. So the work that I'm assigning, I now have a way to collect that. I now have a way to check that, grade it, and get it back. And that will help me to connect with my students more through accountability. Oops. Okay, so I want to just talk a little bit about health and safety, because I know that this is extremely important to everyone as we think about returning to school in any sort of model. So two areas for health and safety that I want to talk about are the social and emotional wellness and library circulation, and how we can do that so that it's following the guidelines for health and safety. First, on social and emotional wellness, one thing that's happening in my community as we reopen school, our district is treating everyone in our community as if there has been trauma experienced. And they're actually using that word trauma. It sounds a little bit scary, but what they're doing is they're elevating this to such a high priority so that as we transition back to school, if we think that everyone has experienced some sort of trauma, we can be more prepared to deal with it. And I think the social emotional part is the thing that I want to try to tap into most with my students. And one way we're doing that is through something called community circles. Community circle, it's sort of like a circle time, but it's meant for students outside of elementary school. We're going to be doing it from kindergarten through 8th grade, which is what my district is. So what happens in community circles is this is the very first period of every day. And in community circles, whether you're in person or you're remote, you take the first 10 minutes or so and you just touch base with your community, with your class, and you try to connect with them and you get people talking about what's going on. You try to tap into that social and emotional piece to see where they are and see how you can support them. So I'm really impressed that our district is taking some time every single day to support the health and wellness and emotional wellness of all of our students. The second thing is on health and wellness is looking at what the recommendations are to circulate library books so that all of those resources can go out to your students. If you think about your library, in my school library, I think we have about 10,000 books. There is a lot of money in that physical space, and a lot of budget money has been put towards those resources. So we can't just shut those doors and close them out. We want to make sure that those resources can circulate to students, and we can do that in a really safe way. There's something called the Realm Project, and the Realm Project has been giving specifically libraries recommendations about how they can circulate books. This is the NJZL website, and on this website we have an entire section all about COVID and about safe ways that you can start circulating resources. And our organization has been doing a lot of professional development with all of our state school librarians to help us safely return and making sure that we understand the health and wellness piece. Some things that I'm going to plan on doing at my school when we return, I'm going to be kind of in a hybrid model, is I'm going to be doing all of my own checkouts. I will not have any parent volunteers coming in, and it will only happen at my circulation desk so I can kind of control the flow of materials. There's going to be more signage, and I will be enforcing where students are if they're coming in or going out of the library. They're going to have some hand sanitizing stations, and when the books are returned and checked in, they'll go directly into a 3-day quarantine period. So I talked a little bit before about this pattern that's happening, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody in the chat just mentioned before, I think it was Selma, that talked about how schools are reducing the staff, especially the libraries. And it's kind of a sad pattern that's happening here in New Jersey, and it's happening all over the country, actually, where we have school librarians that are losing their positions. We're hearing from you, we're hearing from parents, we're hearing from administrators, teachers, even college level professors are reaching out to our organization, and they're telling us these students are coming in as freshmen and they are so lost in how to begin their research for college level research because their high school didn't have a certified school librarian. And it's extremely sad for those students to try to be prepared for college when they haven't been given those skills in high school. In my district in Upper Saddle River, we have 3 buildings and all 3 schools have their own certified school librarian. But I would say that is not the case in most schools across the state. What's happening is because of budget reasons, schools are cutting positions and they're putting a substitute into the library instead of the certified school librarian that has the training needed, the master's level training to serve the students. Sometimes you'll see a classroom teacher fitted in, or a sub, or a parent volunteer. And not that those people aren't qualified. They're qualified in whatever their other role is, but they're not certified school librarians. And that will affect the services that the children get. So I guess the next question I wanted to ask all of you, and maybe you can even put this in the chat, is number 1, what district are you representing? And do you know if there's a school librarian in each of the buildings, a certified school librarian in each of the buildings? Because that really does matter.
And just to maybe continue the conversation that Christina started about college librarians receiving a lot of students into college and universities who are not prepared to conduct proper academic level research. And this is what gave me that idea a few years back to bring my students and attack that issue by bringing my students to the college level library. So not only my students realize the importance of accurate level of academic level research, but also my teachers. And I have to tell you that ever since we have been doing that, and it's been 4 years of doing that, our quality of papers have gone up. And teachers are telling me that students are taking it more seriously. And all of a sudden, nobody is asking a question where they do have to cite where the information came from. It became a second nature. And in library world, in research world, in educational academic level world, that's a huge issue, making sure that you're always backing up what you're saying with quality level information and research. So I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I'm gonna repeat myself by saying that our jobs, depending on the grade level as librarians, is extremely different. And I wouldn't have known that if I wasn't an elementary school librarian for a couple of years. What Christina does is completely different job description than what I do. She has regular schedule and she has hours and sees her students every week. My middle school librarian from Lawrence Middle School, she has created an unofficial pattern and schedule where she sees her students somewhat regularly. When it comes to high school, it's free for all. If they need me, they will come. Usually I don't let that happen. Usually I just go into the classroom and say, hey, by the way, I heard that at this time of the year, usually are doing a big research project on XYZ, Civil War or World War II or Great Gatsby. Do you think that we can work on that together? Do you think that I can show your students how to access quality level information? So my role is more like academic level librarian than elementary school librarian. I think that my job is closer to that. And that definitely translates into college libraries, but also, as Christina mentioned earlier, we not only hear from college and academic librarians, but also public school librarians, because in those school districts where there is no librarian, very often the public librarian is the one who is all of the sudden burdened with the job and duties that usually would be carried by school librarian. And sometimes, as Christina said, it's not that they are not qualified, but they are not trained the way we are in school standards, in curriculum, in language that is being used in various academic educational levels. So sometimes they are just not able to meet those needs of the students because they do not participate in the grander structure of public school. I wanted to also mention that everything what we're saying about the importance of school librarians is backed up by dozens, hundreds, different kinds of studies, not only in the United States, but around the world. And all of those studies keep showing time after time that if you have successful library program with certified librarian in a building, then students perform better on standardized tests. They have higher graduation rates. They are better prepared for college, or if college is not an option, they're better prepared for life after college. Because you know what? Sometimes I help my students write their first resume. Sometimes I help them how to find information about that career that they're looking at. And I need to assess them. Where do I find that information? How do I find that information? What kind of qualifications do I need to have to become that accountant, for example? So this is something that we do in library world as well. To show you the studies, so to show you that I'm not talking without any kind of proof, I have linked here on this presentation to two different researchers. They're our local researchers. I have been working with Joyce Valenza for quite a few years right now. And even right now at this moment, we are working on college readiness study together. I'm one of the researchers on the team. And what we are trying to see, there's two things that we're looking at. One, how can librarians better prepare students for their college? And two, how did librarians have had to pivot and change their instruction during remote learning? So hopefully this study is going to be released very soon. But if you click on those links, you will see their biographies, Joyce's and Keith's, and you will see that they have been writing and talking about the importance of the libraries for a couple of decades. Keith is a researcher who is known, you can just write down his name and go to his website. He is known to go from state to state and study the local, state level school library situation and show what's missing, what could have been done better, what can be improved. And he's you know, critical of librarians as well. He says that, you know, this is what we used to do, but we need to adapt to our new role in virtual world, and how can we support our teachers and students in that world as well. And there's also a link to Joyce's page. And again, there's her biography, and there is a link to her blog. There is a link to all of her articles. And both of them, I know that at this very moment, they are working very hard at trying to save Pennsylvania libraries. Pennsylvania libraries are suffering. If I'm not mistaken, there is, I think, only one certified librarian in the whole city of Philadelphia. There is also one more link here, and this is to show you that us as librarians are also very active when it comes to curriculum and state standards, and that we know how to support our teachers. So there is a link to career readiness, life literacies, and key skills. And I was one of the librarians who was working on the information and media literacy. And what we have done here is basically look at the old version of the state standards and brought it back to our current realities. So we looked at the vocabulary and expectations and needs of our students. And one of the biggest and most important issues that we will be working on when it comes to the library world is media and information literacy. What does it mean? That means that we have to focus on critical thinking when it comes to not only reading information, but watching information and looking at information. Do you think that what you're seeing is real? And if you have any kind of doubts about it, how can you justify, or how can you research further to check if what you're seeing, what you're saying is correct and backed up by science? And also on this slide right here, we also have one more link, and this is a link to the American Association of School Librarians. And that link shows you the page created for parents. I think if you hover on the, one of those, it should be a link, yes. So American Association of School Librarians put together standards that were released, I think last year. And this page is specifically for parents, for you to know, what do we do on a school level? How do we support our teachers and students? And what can you do to help us and support us? Because there is no doubt that we need you. And as Christina was saying, time after time, we as New Jersey Association are being contacted by parents, by teachers, by librarians, and we are being told that so-and-so school, then in the town, is losing a school librarian or losing school library building. A couple of years ago, I was visited by a supervisor from Boston who was overseeing, I want to say, I don't remember the number, but dozens of libraries. And she was saying that there was a trend in Massachusetts when they shut down the libraries and they literally just closed the doors and left it be. And they fired most of the librarians in a whole city of Boston. And then a few years forward, they realized what kind of big mistake they made. And now they're trying to untangle that because they are starting to see the consequences of not having certified librarian and realizing what happens when you don't have that networking person who connects the teachers with technology, with information, with new tools. I often put together programs that teachers are not realizing they need each other, because one teacher is in his or her silo in social studies department, and then I have English department, and they are working on the same exact period or era or time period. And they are not realizing that, well, if they were working together, they don't know about it. They have different programs and curriculums. But I often tell them, so-and-so is working on exactly the same thing. How are we guys? We all work together. Okay.
So just for the last minute or two, I wanted to just talk about some resources. It looks like some of you on the chat have some that there are certified school library media specialists in your districts, but I see in Montclair, it looks like they rotate. Maybe there's a few librarians and they go between buildings, which is a lot of times how they try to stretch those librarians. So what you can do is, if you don't have school librarians in all the buildings, the best thing you can do is partner up with the public library, and hopefully the public library can serve and can kind of carry some of that weight if there is no school library existent. South Brunswick is doing this extremely well. They have a joint partnership, and I know that in our district, we do have school librarians, but our public librarian comes over and introduces all of our young students for public library card sign up month, and we work on the summer reading lists together. So that partnership is really important. If there's no school librarian, then hopefully the public library can kind of fill in some of those gaps. But again, they're not a certified school librarian. There's something called Jersey Clicks, which is from the New Jersey State Library. Jersey Clicks is given budgeted money from the state, and they are funded through the state, and they provide some resources, some free resources that all children can use. We call it like the best kept secret. It's a little treasure trove that all students in New Jersey can access from school or from home. And these have some databases that they can use for some of the research that they're doing from school. If they don't have a school librarian, they can go onto Jersey Clicks and get some resources. I know that Eva and I have our own library budget, and we subscribe to pay resources also in addition to what Jersey Clicks provides for our students. Eva, did you want to talk about the Mercer County Library System?
Yes, and if I may add something to the state library program, to Jersey Clicks, I know of school districts where the librarian, there is a position of a librarian in a building, but the librarian has no budget. So in that situation, what is available through Jersey Clicks is the only resource for that school district. And I'm just using Mercer County Library System as an example, because we often, just like Christina was saying, we partner up, we work together, and sometimes there is possibility that I can't afford a resource, but the public library already has it, so I will send my students there. But the trick here is I can't put their resource on my regular curriculum in my regular program because I have no power and control over what they will be providing. Therefore, I need to focus only what I'm able to provide.
Another resource is our national organization, which is the American Association of School Librarians, AASL for short. They have been putting together a lot of professional development for school librarians. This is their infographic that they're sharing about how school librarians can serve students, whether it's in-person instruction or remote or a hybrid. And this is on their website. I think the greatest resource that we have here for school libraries in New Jersey is the New Jersey Association of School Librarians. Now, I'm totally biased. I am the past president, but I think we have a really strong organization. And something that we do is we help parents, especially parents where there are schools or districts that don't have school librarians. What we have on our website are advocacy resources, and we have one specific member. Her name is Christina Beebe, and Christina's role is to be our advocacy liaison. And what she does is she receives all of those emails from parents that are saying, oh, I live in this town and they're getting rid of our school library. They're making it into a special ed classroom. What can I do? And what we do is we all come together and we have this grassroots effort where we go to board meetings. We have the NJPTA write letters on behalf of that district, and we get out, get our voices heard, and we get out there and we let the district know that this is not acceptable. And we have turned the tides in many districts where parents have brought this to our attention. So locally, we are a very strong organization. The last thing I want to do is just, these are our references. And I wanted to just put up our contact information one more time. We're going to try and go through a couple of your questions now, but if there's another question you think of or something we can't answer right now, please feel free to reach out to us via email or Twitter, and we can help you beyond this event. So I just wanted to address Ginger's question. I hope Ginger's still on here. Ginger asked about preschool activities, and I don't know, Rose, is there a way to let Ginger unmute herself? Is that possible?
Hold on. Yep, I will.
I would love to just hear from Ginger and just to have her elaborate on her question about preschool.
Hey, Ginger, you should be able to speak. Wait, you need to unmute Ginger on your end.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep. Hi, Ginger.
Hi. Actually, I'm a grandmother now. I've sent my kids through school, but my grandson will be going into preschool. It's his first year. So I just was wondering exactly what do you do for a preschool, especially a first year preschool student? Do you
It's a great
recommend books to the teacher? Do you bring them into a library? What is it you really do?
I would say all schools treat preschool differently. In
Okay.
building, we have a couple different types of preschool. We have like a regular instruction preschool. There's an AM and a PM class. Those children I don't see, but I do work with their teacher, and I work with her on whatever resources she needs.
Okay.
The other preschool I have are self-contained special needs preschools. There's an autistic ABA preschool class in our building. Those children do come to my library. And so I see them just like I see all of my other regular classes. Some of the things we work on are skills that their teacher said they're learning. So we did a big unit on colors. We did a unit on numbers, on letters. They love to be read to, so I read to them every week. We did a unit on nursery rhymes, and I even try to get them onto some early technology websites. I give my preschoolers the Chromebooks that have a touch screen, so that they don't have to worry about using an external mouse, and they just touch the screen and they can play games that go along with the colors or numbers or whatever it is we're learning. I love the website called Starfall, which is a pay website. But Starfall also has a subscription where you can open and unlock all of these other features that are great for preschool and kindergarten.
So then it's just best to inquire from the teacher, from the school, what it is that they're going to do, or do they do anything at all? Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
You got
Thank
it. Thanks for your question, Ginger. It was great chatting with you.
Christina, real
yep.
quick, not to interrupt, but I know Megan had posted, our local public library has a contactless pickup in our district, has not done that. And she'd like some ideas as a parent and volunteer how to get that going. I know, we're very passionate about advocating for school libraries and things like that. So if you could address that.
Absolutely. Megan, thank you so much for that question. I think that if you can help to put that in place, that will be so important for your students. I think you're going to have to probably talk to your administrators. It's really going to be an administrator's decision whether or not they're going to allow for contactless delivery. I had a meeting last week with my principal in my building, and I brought it to her attention, and I said, this is something we need to be doing for our students. Many of these kids have not held any physical books since March outside of their home and what they have at home. So we need to be able to provide that. I have a book budget. I am still ordering books so that I have brand new books for these kids in September. So Megan, I would recommend probably talking to your administrator in the building, having a conversation and seeing if they're open to contactless delivery, and maybe even suggesting ways that it can be safely done using that resources. And I'll put in the chat, I'll put the Realm resource and the NJZL site, because we have some really easy guidelines that you can follow. I don't know if Megan wants to unmute and say anything else about that.
Yeah, hold on.
And if I may want to add something to that, it's only August 19th. School districts are working on their plans. I know for a fact that a lot of librarians in my school district are still working on their final plans. I know that all of us, every single one of us, want to, as Christina said, give something to our students so they can hold on to, because we know that everybody is so tired on looking at the screen. So we are putting all kinds of different plans in place to make sure that our students will have access. And Salma asked the question, if we do find ourselves pushing cart in the hallways. I do. My students have ability to come to the library at their own free will. And yet I do, whenever I'm in a building and whenever students are in the building, I do put library books on the cart and go to the cafeteria and stand in a hallway. And especially before longer breaks and long weekends, I do make myself very visible and very present. And this is why I asked you earlier in a chat, what do you think the librarians do? If you think that we sit behind closed doors and just wait for them, no, that's not true. I travel through the building. I make myself very visible and very present. When I was newly hired in my school district, I didn't want people to think about me that, oh, this is that new librarian. No, I wanted them to know who I am, so they feel comfortable approaching me and talking to me about the needs that they have. So we are networkers, we are connectors, we are the people who catalyst to spark all kinds of different initiatives and information. And we have a couple of more chat questions, I think.
Eva, I think Heather was asking about some high school virtual sites.
Yes.
I don't know if Heather's still on here.
Yes, so everything depends if your school district has a high school librarian or not. This is a big issue. Some school districts have only one librarian per district. Some have, like Christina and I are very fortunate, we have a librarian in every building. So the librarian in the building will have either subscriptions that are available to all the students, or will be and if there is no librarian in a building, then probably going through Dziedzic-Elliott and probably going through the public library is our best bet and best option. Towards the end of the last school year, a lot of publishers, a lot of vendors were making their resources available to us for free. I'm not sure if they will be so generous in September. But at the same time, I know what I'm doing for my students as a high school librarian. I am partnering up not only with my students, I have a very active and very enthusiastic library club, and they will be working with me on creating video recordings, how to access our ebooks, but also how to place an order for a physical book and how to pick it up later on. So I am hoping that even though my school district is going to be virtual and my students will be online only, I'm hoping that we will be able to set up some kind of level of exchange where they either access ebooks available through my subscriptions that I'm paying for, or maybe there is going to be an option. And again, this is something that we're still working on. Maybe there's going to be a way for me to safely place book in certain location that students can come and just pick it up. But again, something that we need to always remember, as much as I have to remember that books that are returned to me have to be quarantined for 3 days, maybe they should be quarantined when they go to the house as well. So this is something we need to keep in mind. Yes, when I'm in a building and when I'm touching the books, I'm not touching them for a few days after I receive them. But at the same time, there's the transition going back and forth. So let's just be safe here.
I know we're coming over an hour's time. I just want to say thank you to everyone that attended, and a real special thanks to my co-presenter Eva and Rose and Kathy from the NJPTA for including our organization in this. We love the opportunity to talk to parents. We love spreading the word of school libraries, and we thank you for your time. Please feel free to reach out to us, and thank you again for attending.
Thank you. Unless there are other questions that we didn't answer.
Well, thank you both. I just shared, just for everyone else, I just shared the link for our, to provide feedback on the workshop. I'm sure our presenters would love to get that feedback. And this presentation will be available. I know I can't wait for it to be available because I actually want to share it with our school librarians in my district, because I think this is some great ideas that they can have, because right now we're going hybrid, and it's about 80% hybrid and 20% in full remote. But these are great resources for librarians to have to share.
And New Jersey School Library Association is there to support the librarians if there are librarians in a school building in a school district. So we are here to support, and we are organizing our own professional developments for each other to support each other with the new library world that we have.
Great, thank you both. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.